I tend to get away from the term palliative sedation for a variety of reasons and just talk about sedation. But it's the same thing. I definitely do not use the word terminal sedation, even though, it's just a problem. There is, one of the problems with it is that this has been used. In fact, one of my mentors went to the Supreme Court a number of years back because he sedated someone who was not imminently dying until she died. She was absolutely miserable. Multiple doctors had done absolutely everything they could to help this horrible situation. And I happened to have met some of the family members, and they were very grateful for it. But he did this until they died, and then he published it in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a way to get some attention. So the New York Attorney General took him all the way to the Supreme Court, who ended up finding that he had done it in order to relieve the symptoms and not to cause death. But for good reason. This is a controversial thing, because he did cause their death by it, and it arguably could be used as a slow euthanasia type of thing. And that is not the way we use it, and that's one of the reasons I avoid those terminologies. I respect him highly. If he was going to evaluate everyone who was going to have some type of euthanasia type of thing, I would feel a heck of a lot better about it, because I would know that almost all of them would have had everything else done first and been treated very appropriately before it happened. But anyway, we may disagree on 0.01% of patients, but it's minimal. In any case, so generally we're looking at someone who is dying in this case, not only terminally ill, but generally not adequately orally hydration, or not able. Is something I just was thinking about even today, not able to really breathe enough to adequately live for any length of time at all. And it's not something that's reversible. So they are in the dying process. They probably have less than a couple weeks to live. They have less than 2 weeks to live. Then there needs to be agreement. If there's disagreement, then it needs to go up and include ethics committee or something, because we don't want, if A disagrees with something, we want to deal with those things. So we want to be straight up. I do not think this is ethically an issue, to be perfectly honest, when done appropriately. But we want to be straight up. Again, the goal is the relief of the intractable suffering. It is not aimed at death. And in fact, used the way we do, I do not believe it shortens life at all. It may even prolong life slightly, because they're not agitated, so they're not using as much oxygen, they're not losing as much water. They're calm. So how do we do this? Obviously, we've determined this person is appropriate, meaning that there is suffering going on, the patient is suffering, and we've tried to relieve it. We cannot relieve it with other means. We obtain agreement of the team and the family. We do consent just to be extra safe. Honestly, I think you could make a good case that is not necessary, because this is just done the way we do. It's just the next logical step in good medical care, and that's been... Anyway, it's an interesting discussion in some of the literature. Choosing a sedative is a difficult one. Versed is what we've been generally using. It's good. It's a nice one. It's rapid onset. It can be quite effective. It's a benzodiazepine. Ativan, have used in the past. Phenobarbital, maybe a little bit higher risk, although I don't think it's a major issue. You can give it subcutaneously or PR, and you can do it intermittently, because it's very, very long half-life. Propofol is one that I'm going to be looking into further, as far as something we may consider using more in the future. Tends to be quite safe and very effective at sedating someone without some of the potential problems of the benzodiazepines. Thorazine actually has been used this way, and certainly as an adjunct, as an extra medicine to use. It's very sedating and has an antipsychotic. Opiates are not an appropriate sedative. Do not sedate someone with an opiate. The safety factor, by the time you get deeply sedated on an opiate, you're at high risk to start getting into respiratory suppression and killing them. And that doesn't last very long. They don't stay sedated at that dose, so you need to rapidly keep titrating up the dose, because you get tolerant to the sedation effect and the respiratory depression effect quite rapidly. So opiates are a lousy choice for sedation. We do not hydrate, except in one case, which is the concept of respite sedation, which is someone's been miserable for whatever reason, set of reasons, and they're just completely physically exhausted, and you just completely knock them out 24, 36 hours, and then you let them wake up. But if you do that and you don't hydrate them, then they're going to wake up dehydrated, and so in the meantime you will give them at least maintenance hydration. But that's a different scenario. How do we do this? Okay, what we want to do is rapidly and safely get to the target level of sedation, which I never had any problems with until this recent case where it made him mad. And the goal is obtundation or moderate sedation, which means you can arouse him. You can arouse this person. You go up to him, you say, "Hello, sir. Hello,